In this tutorial we are going to learn how to 3D model a small house. Go to File, Import, then from the Training Notes 1 go to the House to Model folder and select the house to model.dwg. Before importing it, check the options, make sure you merge coplanar faces, orient faces consistently, and use the units millimeters. Then import, close the dialog, and you'll have the house here. So we're going to be 3D modeling this house from a DWG CAD plan. And that's just to save a bit of time in the design of the floor plan and to teach you how to reference using CAD plans. So first what we want to do is we want to group everything together. So select all. Actually it all came in as one big component, so we might just right click and explode. So I'm going to select all the floor plan, right click and make it a group. Then select the next elevation, right click make group, and just keep repeating until each elevation and plan is its own group. So sometimes from CAD you get these little red crosses. These are references or construction geometry. You can get rid of those by going to the edit menu, delete guides, so we can have a cleaner model. Next, what I like to do is just save straight away so that we can ensure that we're keeping up to date with our savings. So I go house to model. The next thing I like to do is put the house in the middle of the drawing. So with the select tool, I'm just going to select that group, get the house, and just put it on top of the axis or the origin. Okay. Next we need to determine where the elevations lie on the plan. So with the select tool I can select that elevation, then get the move tool and then move it over to here. Next, select the next elevation, get the move tool, move it over to here, and then again select the next elevation, move tool, and place it over here. Then what we can do is rotate the elevation. So with the move tool, when you hover over top of any elevation, whether it's pre-selected or not, when you hover on it, you'll get these little red crosses. If you click on the red cross, then you can rotate and you can snap to the increments on your protractor. So the same over here, hover over top of it, find the red cross, click on it, drag it down, and then click to finish. So next we're going to rotate the elevations upwards. So select the elevation that you wish to rotate, click on the rotate tool, then you need to choose the correct plane to rotate on. So if we look here, if I press the left arrow, it will select the little green plane. If I press the right arrow, it will go to red, up arrow is blue. So we want to select the left arrow as that's the rotation we want to use. Then we're going to place it on the corner of the building, so go down along this line until it hits the very bottom corner, click to place the plane, go along the edge and click to begin, then scroll upwards or move your mouse upwards and rotate it 90 degrees and click. You can just type 90 as well if you please. Next we need to align the elevation to the plan to ensure that they are lining up. So if we get the move tool, I'm going to hover on the edge of the elevation and click. Take it along the green axis, that's the one I want, left arrow, and then touch the plan and click. So now this edge here is lined up with the elevation, but we'll just double check this edge. So click, left arrow, and then align it to the plan, and it looks like it's out of alignment. So there's about 90 millimeters difference there. So what would happen is whoever drew the elevation didn't quite make sure that it lined up with the plan properly. So that can happen. So what we'll do is we'll align the roof ridge first, so left arrow, and we'll align that to the plan so that that is at least in the middle. Alright, so next what we need to do is align this elevation here as well. So we'll click on that, get the move tool, and we'll align the roof. So click on the roof, press the right arrow, and then align it to the plan. And again, we'll double check this side, click, right arrow, and line it up with the roof. So this elevation is good, it lines up well. Rotate tool, then click on or push on the right arrow. That's the rotating plane we want. And again, we'll go along the edge until it hits the bottom of it, click, go along the edge, click, rotate upwards, and you can type 90 if you please. Or you can just click once it says 90. So again, click on the elevation, move tool, and we'll click on the edge, left arrow, and then align that to the wall. Double check the other side, click, left arrow, align to the wall. 0 also, so this elevation is good as well. So there just must be an error with that one elevation. So left arrow for the rotating plane, click on the corner, go along the edge, click, rotate upwards, and type 90. Okay, so we've now rotated our elevations and put them into place. We can just move each of them a little bit closer if we please with the select tool. Oops. One click, then the move tool, and bring it in closer. So what I like to do is go through, and usually I just like to delete the layers because I like to create my own. But it's up to you if you want to leave them because it looks like everything's on the correct layer. So if we were to do that, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to select all and click on the delete layers and then move everything to the default layer. Then I'm going to click on the add layer and create a new layer called elevations and select all the elevations. So selecting from right to left and holding shift and adding the other elevation. I can move that to the elevations layer now, and then I'll create one more layer called floor plan, and we can select the floor plan and move that to the floor plan layer. Okay, so it's starting to get underway. So the next thing I'll do is draw the floor plan. So let's get the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to trace over the total size of it, and we'll add in this rectangle here too. So if we get the select tool now, we can triple click on the floor and then right click and make group. Then I can double click on the floor and get the eraser and delete that. So I just put it into a group, edited the group so that I could delete that line between the two rectangles and ensure that my model is not going to get tangled up with the floor plan or any other object. Next, what I might do is just increase the hidden or the elevations outside of the group because it's hard to see the floor plan. So if you go to Window, Model Info, Window, Model Info, then go to, where are we needing to go? Components, and see we've got Fade Rest of Model. We want to increase that so we can see the lines a bit better. If you do it fully to the right, then it just obviously looks like it's quite dark. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to do is offset that floor. So if I go H on my keyboard, you can see that I've just got the outside shape. So I'm going to get the offset tool, click there to begin. Just give it a bit of time, then go 90, enter. So offset the walls there, 90. And it looks like the internal walls might be a little bit thinner. So we'll just trace over those with the line tool. So if I get the line tool, and I'm working in orthographic mode, you can see the perspective doesn't look quite right. So if I go camera and turn back on the perspective, I'm in a 3D view now. So just go through and trace over the internal walls, and just make sure when you do it that you do it on the correct axis. So if you're not sure, you can always use your arrows to lock it in the direction that you want to draw. So we're just using the floor plan as a reference, and this way you can ensure that the lines that you're drawing create proper corners and don't have any gaps. Okay, so got that there. If you wanted to, you could select a few lines, and then you could offset those. So you could just go 65, and then I could just join that up. Escape when needed. Then I could go along here and draw that to there, and then back down to here. Alright, so we're just tracing the internal walls. So I'm just going to pause it while I go and complete the rest of the walls. Okay, so we've finished creating the walls. Next, what I'd like you to do is just get the eraser and make sure you've got all clean surfaces, so no gaps between the exterior wall and the interior walls. Okay, so you just go through and clean those up. That's good. Oh, and there's a couple more there. So you're just going to make sure you get all those. Okay, then we should be able to just click in the center of the floor and then delete. So we're just left with basically the 3D, well, the walls that we can extrude up. So if I press H on my keyboard, I can see where I need to be. Okay, so let's push-pull these up into this point here. So that's just where the roof kind of like sits on the roof, where the roof sits on the walls. So with the push-pull tool, I'm just going to click on that, and I'm just going to click there. So it's about 2675. Okay, then what I'm going to do is create the roof, because then I know where to extrude the walls up to the roof. So we'll close this group here, and I'm just going to go over to this elevation on the end, because this one was the more correct elevation. So we're going to trace over the end like so to create a surface, and then with the select tool, spacebar is another good way to get into the select tool. Double click on the surface, right click, and make that a group. Then what you could do is you could put your roof and your walls onto a layer if you please. So you go and add a layer and go walls, add another layer, call it roof, have a save because we've done a lot of work, and just move each group to the layer. Click on the walls, then move that to the wall there. So the beauty about adding the group to the layer is that now when we edit the group, we always work on layer 0 as per our earlier layers and components tutorial. Always work on layer 0, so then when you draw something inside of that group, even though it's not on the walls layer per se, if I close the group, it's actually been drawn in the walls group. So it essentially became a part of the walls layer. So if I turn off the walls layer, you can see that that line disappeared with the walls. So that's a really good workflow when using SketchUp. So we're going to double click on the roof surface, and it's just a profile at the moment, so we're going to get the push-pull tool, and we're going to push-pull that right to the end of the floor plan, and we're going to use the roof outline on the floor plan to line up with. So it's quite a nice way of modeling, or 3D modeling, yeah. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can look at finishing off the exterior walls. So you can see that the wall just goes straight up until it hits the roof, and the same on this end here. So how we could do that is double click on the walls here and then press H, and I'm just going to draw a little line across here and a little line across here. Okay, then what we can do is we can push pull this surface right up and then press H up through the roof, and let's do the same over here. So H, draw a little line across here, across there, and across there, and then push pull up. through the roof. Then we can erase any excess lines, so I've got an excess line there, and there, and there, and there, and there. Okay, so if we now close this group, select tool and click away from it, we can click on the group and look under entity info, and our group should be solid. So I'm going to show you two methods of trimming the walls. So just keep an eye on this, and I'll show you the solid the solid tools way and the intersect with model way. So what I might do is just select this roof and get the move tool and just copy this upwards just like that. And then what I'm going to do is get the select tool, double click on the underside, and then select these two surfaces. Press H so you can see what you're doing. Then get the move tool and just move this down until it hits the underside. So we're just creating a big shape that we're going to use to trim the walls off. So if we click on this object here, we can move that back to layer 0. And why I'm doing that is because I just want to turn off the roof layers to show you the trimming. So to use the solid tools, we've already turned them on down here, but if you haven't got them, you just find them under View Toolbars and select Solid Tools. So you select the object you want to use to trim the other object. So I'm going to select that, then click on Subtract, and then click on the solid object below. And you can see it's perfectly trimmed off the walls. And then if I turn the roof layer back on, it's now brought it back. So that's a really nice method. If you didn't want to do it that way, you could just use this object here. So we could maybe like cut that. So use the scissors, edit the wall group, and then go to Edit menu, Paste in Place, so that that group is in the wall surface group. Then I can right click on that and go Intersect with Context. And then I could delete that object because it's no longer needed, and I can then select the top edges with the select tool and holding Control, and I can delete the excess geometry that way as well. So it's a bit more of a manual process, but it works and you'll get the same result. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. The other thing I forgot to check was the height of which I'm modeling this. So I'm using the elevation, so I stood them up right. So the height of it, the walls might actually be a bit too tall, or the floor plan might be a little bit too high actually. So if I just select this plan, I'm just going to click on it and go downward. Okay, so that's actually where that should be. So the bottom of my walls are a little bit too long. Actually no, here it is here. So it should be up 140 from where it was, because there's actually a floor slab that needs to go down. So to fix this, get the select tool, double click on the walls, drag a big selection around the bottom of all the walls. See how I'm using a good view to select all, and you can press H so you can see everything. Get the move tool and move that up 140. Alright, and then spacebar and close the group. So you can see now that we've got the walls meeting the roof really nicely. Then we can turn the roof off again, and we can now create our floor slab. So I can just trace around the bottom edge of the house. So just with the line tool, make sure you're on axis using the arrows or holding shift when you're on the right axis. And if you can't find endpoints, what I do is sometimes go past the line like that, holding shift or the right arrow, then touch the surface I want to intersect with. So this surface here, click, go out past this way, hold shift, touch this wall or this face, click, and then it creates the face. Spacebar, double click on the surface, right click and make group. Then we can edit the group and push pull that downwards 140. So we now have our floor slab. Get the select tool again, close the group, and you can create a layer called foundation. Enter. So we can select that and move that to the foundation layer. Alright, and we can then close, we can turn off the floor plan now because we don't really need it. So I'm not going to get into 3D modeling the inside. We did an earlier project, 3D modeling a kitchen, which will show you how to do some of the doors and things like that. I might just show you one door, how to fill that in. So if we go over to here, we could double click on the walls, select the top of the wall, get the move tool, copy that downwards. Overall height is 2535, so we'll go down 535, and then push pull tool, push pull that across, and then we can erase the lines where that meets. Okay, so that's how you create your doors, and then you can add more detail like the previous tutorial. So all along I could select, I could close that group and select it again, and you can see it's still solid, which is great, up in the top right corner of the entity info. So it means that we're doing a good job of modeling it, making sure that it's nice and detailed. So next what we need to do is create some openings for our windows. So I'm going to double click on my walls again, press H, and then what I can do, which is quite cool, is I can get the rectangle tool, hold shift on the surface, and then come and just reference the window. Once I've done that, I can then push pull that through until it hits the front or the other face, the on face. Click, or just type in 90 millimeters, and then that will create an opening. So again, rectangle tool, go over to the surface you want to draw on, hold shift, and then just trace over the elevation, and then push pull tool, and then push pull that until it says on face, or type 90. So I'm just going to carry on doing that. So rectangle tool, and we're just going to trace over that. Push pull tool, P for push pull on your keyboard, double click, and it should remember that last measurement. And rectangle tool, holding shift on the face, and then double click. Just finish these off. And I'm just using quick keys like R for rectangle, P for push pull, double click, and then I've now cut open the wall or the window openings. Alright, so we're almost finished with the elevations, but we've got a few more, a couple of windows to do. I'm not going to go to the complete detail of what's shown, but it will give you a good idea of how you can create a window. So next what I'm going to do is make sure I'm not in the wall group. I want to close that group. And I'm just going to create a window. So get the rectangle tool and trace over it. Then get the push pull tool, push pull that back 40 millimeters. Get the select tool, triple click on the window, right click, and make it a group. Then I can edit the group, press H just to make sure I'm in the group. Then I can trace over the window to get the shape that I'm after. So I'm just going to trace over that. So I'm literally using my elevations as a complete reference. So I'm just going to push pull that back and that one. And even, sorry, before you do that, we could make a copy of that surface. So I could select that surface and this surface, move tool and press Control to copy. Then I could push pull that back until it says on face. Double click to repeat the measurement. Push pull that maybe up 10 millimeters, and this one 10 millimeters. Then spacebar, select the two glass surfaces and move that back until the midpoint, or even you can move it back until just the elevation there. That looks pretty good. So we're going to spacebar, close the component or the group, select it, get the move tool, and then just move it straight back until it hits the face. So it's quite flush at the moment, so I might just pull it out a little bit, maybe another 10, so that you're getting that 3D detailing. The window down the back there looks the same, so I might just right click on that and make it a component, and we're going to call it window 1. Okay, and then we've created a component. Once it is a component, you can save it as your own component, and put it into your own library. So if you were to right click and then select save as, you could go, it automatically found the right place to put it, so application data, roaming, SketchUp, SketchUp 2018, SketchUp components, window 1. If I hit save, you'll see that when I open up components, drop down here and then go to components, whereabouts is it? My collections, nope, components, no, it hasn't quite found it. You can find it also, or do it another way. You could right click, actually no, we can link to that folder, so we can go open or create a local collection, then we could go to the C drive, then we could go to users, and then the username, application data, roaming, SketchUp 2018, SketchUp, select components, and there's the window in there. And then once you've selected that folder, you can add it to your favorites, so that whenever you add more components to that folder, you just build up your library, and you can put subfolders within that folder as well. Okay, so we've got a component now. I can take that and get the move tool and copy that over to here, and then with the move tool hovering on top, I can use the little markers to rotate and then place that into the corner there. Sometimes you'll find that it might not find the endpoint so well, so if you press X on your keyboard or click on the X-ray tool, you can then find the endpoint a little bit better, and then turn off X-ray and then move that back out 10. So the great thing about what I've done there is that by making it a component, if I need to make a change, I can then edit the component, push pull a surface, and you'll notice that the other one is doing it also. So if we wanted to add that finer detail there, we could easily do that. Alright, so I'll do one more window and then I'll pause for the other ones because I can do them, well, you'll know how to do them from now on. So we'll do one more, we'll do the big window. So rectangle tool, make sure you're not in any other group or components so that you don't draw in the wrong group or component. Push pull that surface 40, then triple click on it with the select tool, right click, and then we'll make it a component because it's the same as the one along the elevation. So we'll go door. Okay, then we've created that door. Now we can edit the door. So now I can get the rectangle tool and just start to trace over the elevation. So just go through, trace out the shape. Not sure exactly what that is, but we'll put it in there. Okay, press H on your keyboard and you can see the shape that you've created. So spacebar and select holding shift these faces. Oh, missed one. H, and we'll just rectangle tool and then select that face also, and then H. Okay, with the move tool, press Control and copy the glass surfaces to the side so you've got a copy. Then hit the push pull tool again, and we're going to push pull that back 40 millimeters, and then you can double click on the other openings. Okay, then we could push pull maybe these out 10. Then spacebar or select tool, we're going to select these faces, move tool, and then we can place those back in line with that main frame, which is there. Okay, so then we can select the window after closing the component, get the move tool and click, and then take that back until it's flush with the wall, and then with the move tool move it off the wall 10 millimeters so that's consistent with the other windows. And then I can copy it from this opening, or with the move tool and control I can copy it on the elevation. And how easy is that? Okay, so remember to have a save, and now I'm just going to pause to finish off the other windows. Okay, so I've finished off the other windows, so you can see all the windows are in there, and if we turn back on the roof, then turn off the elevations layer, we've essentially finished that 3D model. Well, we've finished the main shape of it. So there's a few finer details that I'd like to do. So if we get the select tool, we'll double click on the roof, we can select the top edges and the bottom edges, and we can just copy those both inward. Let's say 18, we'll say 50 millimeters. Okay, and do the same down the other end. Go 50. We could select the top ridge, get the move tool again, control, copy that downwards and say 200. Then what we could do is from here I could copy that out to the right on the green axis, hold shift until it meets this face, so that we then repeat it on the other side. So just adding a bit more detail to the roof. Okay. Next what we can do is we could select this edge and this edge, just these two lines, move tool, and just copy that down maybe 80. Then just push pull that out a little bit, like 10, just to give it a bit more detail. So just adding to the I guess the realism of it, but you'll know what to do. And push pull. Okay. Next what we want to do is we want to put a gutter on. So I'm going to close the roof group because I don't want the gutter to get tangled up with the roof. Get the line tool, and from here I'm just going to click and go upwards 80, come outwards 80, downwards 80, and then back. So I'm just creating a rectangle, get the 2-point arc tool, click from the midpoint to the next midpoint, or once it goes purple, double click. Get the select tool, double click on the gutter, then right click, and then we can make that a group. So we can then double click on the group, and before we push pull it we could copy it to the other side. So we could select this, get the move tool, press control and copy it out past the other side on the green axis. Once it's out past it we can right click on it and flip it along the green direction, and that will just like mirror it. Then I can move that back holding shift and touch the face to line up with. So then we can get the push pull tool and just push pull that to the other side. And the same on here, we should be able to double click, yep, and it repeats that measurement. Okay, so lastly all I want to do is just color this model up. So I'm going to double click on the roof again and paint from the top going down. So we go drop down to roofing, click on the roof material and add that. Then like a previous roof exercise I could click on the create button, and then from that material I can turn off the texture and just get the color. So I can go OK and then hold shift and paint. Then what I can do is drop down menu colors and just choose basically like a white color, or I could create from the previous material a white or cream, light cream material that I can paint the sophites with. Okay, so then if I close that group, you can see the gutters aren't in the group, so I'm going to select that and that. Actually it's all in the one group, so I'm going to go to the scissors, cut, edit the roof group, edit, paste in place. And you'll notice that I haven't quite push pulled it far enough, so if I double click on the group, I can push pull that and just make sure that it goes right to the end. Okay, so close the group, and then I can go to my in model, which is this little house here. Click on the color and then click on the gutter. Okay, so I did notice also that I'm missing the sophites. So if we get the line tool, I can click down here, go downwards, and then line it up with this point here, go straight out, and then like that. And I can then paint it before I extrude it if I want to, so that when I push pull it, it stays white. And then again, I could select that triangle, get the move tool, and copy it out past the other side. Right click, flip along the green axis, and it could be the red, so just be aware of that it might not be quite what you think. And you can always undo and redo and push pull that across. And then spacebar and close the group. So the roof's now painted. Let's double click on the walls and press H again. So we could get the paint bucket, get the white, and just go shift and paint to get the majority of the surfaces. Then we just need to find a nice brick to use. And if you didn't know, you can actually go to the 3D warehouse, and whatever model you find on the 3D warehouse, it will show you the textures that we used on that. So you can actually download textures from the 3D warehouse now, which is quite cool. So I'm just going to find the least ugly brick I can and just paint that out on the outside. So this house possibly wouldn't be a brick home because it hasn't allowed for you know, a brick cavity and things like that, but you can just choose whatever material you want. Actually, weatherboard is probably a better option for this. So once that's on there, we can go to the edit, and we can just decrease the size, maybe 450, so it's more of a linear weatherboard. And we can of course adjust the colors as well. Actually a whiter color might look nice. So then I can edit the windows. So again, paint bucket, hold Alt on your keyboard, click on the gray there, or the iron sand, and then just click straight on the windows. And that will paint the majority of the window. Then all we need to do is get the select tool and edit the component or group. Go to the material drop down and choose glass and mirrors, and then we can just paint just the glass. And since that was a component, it all got painted at once. Right click, close component. Right click and edit another component, paint the glass. Right click, close component, and then just a couple more to do. So spacebar, double click, B for the paint bucket on your keyboard, spacebar, close, double click on the group, B, click, spacebar, click away, close. So you can get quite quick once you start using your shortcuts. Asphalt and concrete, we could just grab a polished concrete for the floor and click. And so now we've got basically our 3D model almost complete. So it's looking pretty good, and we haven't spent too much time on it. Next, we're just going to turn on the shadows, and you can see that we've got a nice shadow there, and you can change the time of day, and there's more shadow settings over on the right here, so you can change the lightness of the shadow if you want it to be a bit lighter or darker, and you can change again the time of day and the month. So we can just go right click and update the 3D view. So if we ever change the view, we can always go back to the 3D view. So once you're happy with your model, you can simply file, export, or send to layout if you wanted to do some elevations in a floor plan, or you can export a 2D graphic straight from SketchUp. Set the file type to be JPG, for example, and then if we put that onto the desktop, we can go to the options. Make sure it's a nice large size, so you untick the use view size, set it to 3000 or so, OK, and export. And then if we just minimize that, we can open up the house model image that we created, and you can see it looks quite good.